What's up, everybody? Welcome back to On the Warpath. It's Sanchez 405. If you're new, make sure you click the subscribe button. Hit the bell so you get notifications anytime there's new content posted. And as always, like, comment, share this video out if you can. We greatly appreciate it because we're talking Washington football team news all the time. And we got a special guest here, Washington football Q&A with the man himself, Logan Paulsen. You can check him out, Logan_Paulsen. On Instagram. He's got some good stuff breaking down everything for us here. Proud of UCLA, Logan. It is a pleasure to have you on here. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on. It's Logan_Paulsen 82. Just
82, yeah.
No worries. You're a busy man.
Yeah, hey, we're all busy, but you're busy too, and thank you for taking time out of your day, and we'll dive right into it, man. Third preseason game's coming up tomorrow against the Baltimore Ravens, and you were an undrafted free agent out of UCLA, came in here in 2010 with the burgundy and gold. What goes through your mind as a player trying to make the roster, especially a young guy, and this last preseason game, of course, it was cut short because of the 17th game. So you have 3 preseason games. So what is going through the mind of somebody who may or may not be on the bubble there?
Yeah, so I think people need to understand just how important that preseason time is, right? Because it's like kind of your dress rehearsal as a guy that's on the roster bubble, right? You get to kind of show, hey, I know the plays. Because I can practice, the coach stands right behind the huddle. You go in for your set plays. You come out, you get coached up. And there you're kind of out on an island a little bit more. You're independent of your coach. It's how do you react to adversities? How do you handle successes? And it's kind of your last bit of the interview, And so with the abridged preseason with only 3 games, obviously it's really tough for some of these guys to get out there and kind of show what they can do in that context. So I think it's a huge opportunity for a lot of people who are in position battles, on the bubble, like whatever it may be. And it can be extremely stressful, because if you think about it, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Like for a lot of these people, this is the last time they're ever going to play professional football, which is crazy to think about, right? Some of these younger guys, like they're here for camp. They're kind of nearing the last cut. They're never going to play football. This thing that's been a huge part of their life, the last 5, maybe 10 years, depending on whether they played before high school. Or including high school football, and it's going to be gone. And so, there's a lot on the line for these guys.
Yeah, and you talk about that, and sometimes it comes down to who you have, I guess, above you there, the veterans that are in there. And you've had an interesting situation when you first came in there. Chris Cooley was on the back end of his career. Fred Davis, who was looking to be promising at that time, and then you come in there as well. What as a young guy, what did you take from those guys, especially somebody established like Chris Cooley? What were you doing to get your mind ready? Were you taking things away from them? Did you ask them pointers?
Well, I think it's really anytime you're with a guy like Chris and the career that he had and the impact that he had on an organization, like he's just full of information. He was super successful at the highest level of football. And so anytime he said anything to me, I was very astute to it. I would try to digest that immediately and hold on to it. I remember something specifically, he was like, Logan, you're getting off the ball late. And I remember kind of thinking am I really? And I'd watch the film and I was like, yeah, I am getting off the ball a little bit late. And then he kind of says oh, well, actually with the cadence that we run, it's not like when the center actually snaps the ball a little bit early. So you need to be anticipating that early snap so you get off the ball quicker. And it was a huge impact on my game. And so he was full of little tidbits and factoids like that, which was great. And obviously kind of an eccentric personality, which always made coming to work a little bit fun,
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of cool because, you worked with some of the best in the history of the franchise, Jordan Reed as well. What did you see? Unfortunately, his career was cut short. What did you see when you worked with Jordan Reed for those few years that he was there, where your paths crossed in Washington?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those funny things. I've been really blessed and cursed in a lot of ways to see greatness come before me, right? So I was here with Jordan, and then I went to San Francisco with Kittle. I was in Atlanta with Austin Hooper, kind of guys who were starting their ascension into something that becomes really special. And so really the first time I saw him run a route, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be a really good football player. Just the way he moved, his natural athleticism, the rhythm and timing of his feet, the way he caught the football. it was all very like wide receiver-esque, and in some ways better than a lot of wide receivers, who didn't have the straight speed, but he had all of these kind of movement skills that were so spectacular. And so, yeah, you kind of see the writing on the wall, and you're like, well, my role here is going to change, and I have to kind of grab onto this new role with two hands so that I'm not on the street, pumping gas or whatever I'm going to do.
Right. It's kind of funny. You mentioned these guys back and forth. I think there is a little segue there that Logan Paulsen helped get these guys on the right track. I think you need to get your credit right there where that's due, man. You mentioned Jordan Reed, Kittle, Austin Hooper, guys who are at the top of their games and everything. Hey, I tip of the hat to you. I think they undersell working with Logan Paulsen.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Appreciate that, Corey.
Yeah. But you look at it and I think it's interesting that you caught passes from just as many quarterbacks as Terry McLaurin has, from McNabb, Beck, Grossman, RG3, Kirk Cousins, and Colt McCoy.
Right.
What does that do for you? I don't think people really understand how that can change the game about working with different quarterbacks. Just speak to that a little bit, and how game day can change, especially with a change of a quarterback.
Well, obviously there's like a technical difference in how they throw the football. Everyone's got a little different throwing mechanic, a little different throwing style. And that, it sounds crazy, and I'm not trying to oversell this, but it does affect how you catch the football. It just makes it more challenging because it's different. Every quarterback has a little different process, right? And then kind of that's like a very superficial element, but obviously like the way they say the play in the huddle, the composure with which they speak to you, their composure in big moments is different. How they see the defense, how they read the defense is always a little bit different. I know there's like this perception that it's very formulaic, but certain guys are better at it than others. So that comes across so I think, like looking back at that, like all those guys had something like unique that made them really successful in the NFL, but also some qualities that made them struggle. You know what I mean? And so like those qualities that make you struggle, like affect the team kind of throughout. When you're at the most important position on the field, it's really impactful, obviously.
Yeah, and with that, kind of moving off from quarterback competition, we've got some tight ends here in Washington, and I'll go down the list of them. The emergence of Logan Thomas, I thought was, I argue and say that he was the best free agent tight end pickup last year, and most bang of your buck. If you look at it, he outperformed Austin Hooper, stat wise, but Pete Hainer is a tight end whisperer too, from what I understand. Right. Talk about the emergence of Logan Thomas, and did you expect this out of him, especially when he was a quarterback not too long ago, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, in a playoff game against Ron Rivera and the Panthers?
Yeah, I mean, I was a big advocate for the signing when it first happened. I think it was a guy that I had always liked. You like his physical tool set, you like the way he runs, you like he's not the best technical blocker, but he's got a nice physicality to him. He's got a big frame, and he adjusts well to the football in the air. So there was a nice skill set, and he's one of those guys that, getting him in the right system is extremely advantageous. And, when Ron and the staff here went out and signed him, you got your fingers crossed saying, well, I really hope that they understand how to use him. And obviously they do. Obviously they understand what he does well. They understand that he's, the type of mover that he is, and they kind of put him in really, fortuitous situations so that he can be successful. And I totally agree with you. I think he's the best free agent signing of last year for sure. Just look at his production, look at the impact that he's had on the team. And then I think look at the growth that he's even had over the offseason. I know it's a small sample size with the preseason, but, again, the staff's doing a good job utilizing him, but he's also expanded his game. Like that catch he had in the first preseason game was pretty phenomenal, and the confidence that Fitzpatrick has in him to kind of execute that, I think, speaks to a possible ascension in terms of role within this offense. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, big advocate for him early on, but in my wildest dreams, I never thought he'd catch 70 plus passes in a season. Right. Yeah. So hopefully he can continue to grow and be a huge asset to this team.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it too about Fitzpatrick. A knock on Fitzpatrick was that he never threw to a tight end, and I kind of make the argument when you look at it, his two best tight ends are Mike Gesicki and Logan Thomas. Those are the two guys that he's thrown to. If you look back, there weren't. I'm not knocking the guys that he played with before, but they weren't they weren't guys that you were going to think you were going to have the game plan for. And now you see that. I think he's going to utilize Logan Thomas a lot in this upcoming season.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I mean, I think you bring up a great point. Like, yeah, and I think it's a little bit of Fitz's playing style, to be honest. I think he likes pushing the ball downfield on the outside. Like, that's kind of who he is. He's got a little gunslinger to him. But I do think having, game kind of changing player at the position is extremely advantageous. You mentioned Mike Gesicki. Like, he's emerging as maybe one of the top tight ends in the NFL, young tight ends. So now Logan Thomas kind of in the same boat, obviously different ages and different stages of their life and career. But I think I totally agree with your assessment there.
And my favorite, this guy was my second favorite draft pick next to William Bradley King because he was the only guy I got right on my mock draft. But William Bradley King, I got him in the 7th round. I said, this guy looks like somebody we're going to get. But John Bates, man, I love this kid. And not because he can catch and not because of his background, because he seeks out blocks, man. Like he will throw a block and then throw another block. And his game improved. I thought on the New England game, he was slow off the block. Yeah. Cincinnati, he improved. Within a week, it looked like that. Talk about John Bates. And a lot of people weren't high on John Bates there. I think some places had him as a 7th round pick. Washington took him in the 4th. Just talk about what you saw through him through the evaluation process.
Yeah, I mean, I was the guy that missed on him too. Like I do my, top 10, 12, 15 tight ends every offseason, and he wasn't on my list. I kind of call all my buddies from the NFL, like who you got, who you like, and go down the list that way, and then go to normal services like PFF and see who their top 15 guys are. And then I'll watch film on him and kind of make my own assessment. And he wasn't on those lists. So when he got drafted, I was a little surprised because there was a couple other guys that I had evaluated that I thought were pretty good roles. But the second you watch his college tape, you realize he's a tremendous player. You know what I mean? He's a tremendous football player. And I say that with the most kind of reverence I can, right? He's a physical, tough guy who understands the game, who understands angles. And when I've been out to practice probably 6 times now here in Washington, and he is one of the most physical inline blockers I've ever seen at the position. And I'm not saying that to get everybody hyped up. I'm just saying it as a matter of fact in terms of my perspective, right? I've watched, 500 tight ends in the course of my career, college, NFL, and he has a tremendous skill set for it. And I'm not saying he's going to be the best blocking tight end of all time, but you see the value that he brings to the team. You see the physicality that he brings. You see the mindset that he brings. And I think that in conjunction with his ability to move and kind of catch the football for a big man who's traditionally a blocker, I think is extremely, extremely valuable and well worth a 4th round pick. He's going to be a big part of this organization for a long time. If you look at last year, for example, Sprinkles, say what you want about him, but he struggled a little bit as the blocking Y tight end in this offense. Bates is going to add kind of power and dexterity at the position. It's going to help the running backs. It's going to help the pass game. It's going to be a nice feature for this offense. And I'm super excited for what he brings and the kind of mindset that he has.
Yeah, I liked him at the Friday Night Football event, and he had a 1 catch on the near sideline, and he lowered the shoulder pad, and you heard it pop in the stands. And I was like, this dude is a headhunter, and he doesn't care if he's blocking or catching. He will make you feel him. And I think that physicality, that's the toughness and kind of what you talk about with Ron, position flex that they're looking for. And I'll drop down to the darling of the tight ends room, Sammis Reyes. He's shown some promise here, and I guess the question is, what do you think of Sammis Reyes, and does he make this final 53-man roster?
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to work out and train with Sammis a couple of times, which has been a really cool experience. And I actually was one of the first people that he spoke with about wanting to play in the NFL just through total serendipity. It wasn't I'm some great tight end person or anything like that. Just kind of chance, totally. Anyway, and I think the most impressive thing about him is his mindset. He is a guy that understands how valuable this opportunity is, and he is going to work his tail off to make sure that he does not leave any opportunity behind, right? He wants to kind of he's representing the nation of Chile, right? He's super pumped on that. He's one of the first Chilean football players, maybe the second one in the history of the NFL. And, physically, he's super impressive, big guy, fast, athletic. Like, he has kind of all the tools. And, yeah, so I understand why he's the darling, and he should be the darling.
Right.
But he still has a long way to go in terms of proving that he can play. Like, in terms of mindset, like, you love it. In terms of the physical tools, you love it. But his experience is basically none at this point. And granted, he's improving each week and every day he's improving. But still, like, he's got a tremendous amount of ground to cover to kind of catch up to everybody. And now he's just physically better than everybody. So in that first preseason game, you see what that does for him, right?
Right.
He's pretty physical in the run game. He can move down the seam well. Not supernatural hands in the run game. Not super technically efficient, but shows a good physicality. Shows that big body, and I think he's got a good shot. I mean, especially when they cut Hemingway, you kind of look at the roster and you say, well, now there's only a couple guys left, like. And I don't think they want to lose him, because if it's me, I'd say 2 years from now, this guy's going to be a player. You know what I mean? If he keeps this mindset, if he keeps his physicality, he can stay healthy. Like, he's going to be a contributing member to this roster. So can you find a way to keep him around? I think is the question.
Yeah, and he's been talented. I know that's what a lot of folks have been bouncing around. Does he make the roster? Does he not? Yeah. But I like you said, this guy is a physical specimen, and there's a reason why he should be a darling here. Now, Logan, I kind of mentioned this earlier, and I want you to buckle your seatbelts. Everybody buckle your seatbelts up. Please, can you add sanity to the fan base and tell us, it's okay to believe in Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I don't understand. Like, so everyone comes to me with this question. Like, I don't understand. Like, what's the deal? Why does everyone hate on him so much?
I don't know. Like, I am a guy who I've seen him 16 years. I've seen Psycho. I know Norman Bates is behind the shower. I know in The Sixth Sense that Bruce Willis is the dead guy because I've seen it multiple times. So I think that's what people are kind of alluding to.
Right.
I've kind of talked to, I call in the Travis Thomas show all the time. And we have sat there and cried on each other's phone and been like, we don't know. And now we're cool with it. Please convince the people out there, these Heineke hopers, and just tell them, hey, it's okay to believe in this guy, and this is the best team that he's been around, really, on paper, I think, since the Texans back in 2014.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when you look at the skill position group here, I think it's going to really support him. I think the offense is maturing in a nice way under Scott Turner, and I think that's going to be an advantage for him. I mean, yes, he's going to have growing pains. Yes, there's going to be tough spots. But if you look at what he does well, which is push the football down the field, and you look at what this offense needs at the quarterback position,
right,
pushing the football down the field, like, that seems like a match made in heaven, right? If you look at the PFF, power rankings, he adds 4 points to the value of this team. And if you look at other that's like the same as Matt Stafford, you know what I mean, for the LA Rams. Like, people around the NFL and around the game understand the value that he brings to this offense. Like, by no means is he going to be perfect, and he's going to struggle at points in this year. But this team is significantly better with him at the helm because of what he does well, which is push the football down the field, make good pre-snap adjustments. Right, he doesn't always make good decisions with the football. That's okay. And then if you look at his last 2 years in the NFL down in Miami, like, he was a top 15 quarterback. Like, and if you look at recency, like, obviously, like, that's a huge deal. You know what I mean? He has been playing at a high level for the last 2 years. Now, obviously, like, his career is very up and down, but I think you can look and say there's been 2 years of consistent football. Right? People around the game seem to think he adds tremendous value to this team. I'm inclined to agree with him. Like, is he perfect? Is he the answer long term? Probably not, like, to be totally candid. But, like, is he going to help this team win some football games this year? Yes. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is, like, I think a lot of people say, oh, well, like, we're not. What if we don't get to the playoffs? Does that mean that Ryan Fitzpatrick had a bad season? And I would say no. Like, the strength of schedule this year for this team is significantly better. So they are going to be in some freaking barn burners if they're not careful, right? So don't let that be an indication of how he's playing. Like, they're playing better teams this year. I think it's an advantage for this team. He's going to make this team better. He's going to make that receiving group better, and then by extension, make the run game better. So, like, is he perfect? No, but does he make this team better? Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of written down. I'm just like, he's going to make this team better. He's going to be a little bit more exciting on the offense. So, it's kind of interesting too with Fitzpatrick that he does not. The one thing about him that I've always been a fan of is his composure, because you can never really tell when he's rattled. And I think that just speaks to him as a player and everything, a leader more than anything, that he very rarely looks rattled out there.
Yeah, I think, you mentioned like all the quarterbacks that I played with. And even though that wasn't like the best group of quarterbacks of all time, like the good ones in there, like when you're in the huddle with them, like they are very composed, like the moment's never too big for them to have a nice leadership characteristic. And think about it, he's had 17, 16 years to develop that skill set and cultivate it. And so I think that, he's got so much experience, so much value added, and I'm excited to see what he does. Like, I know it's not going to be every time he throws a bad pass, Twitter's going to blow up, Instagram's going to blow up. You're going to get a whole bunch of phone calls or whatever and be like, we should start Heineke. But I don't think Heineke's ready, to be quite honest.
No.
Like, if Heineke was further along, I might be singing a different tune. But I just don't think he's ready for a 17 game season, 18 game season now, right? Like, it's Fitzpatrick has a skill set that is good. He's a proven commodity. He's proven like up and down, but like at least you know what you're going to get from him. I think that's tremendously valuable.
And you mentioned Heineke, and what I kind of noticed out of his game, I think from New England to Cincinnati in the preseason, there's a lot of panic. That's just a word that I keep on thinking of, and especially with the ball, how he secures the ball, and his first thought is to run rather than get the ball out and throw it downfield. I don't know if you've seen that or if that's a proper word, but I just, panic always came into my mind sitting here watching that game last week.
Yeah. So what I think, if I was going to describe it, I think he's off schedule, right? And so like, when I first came into the league, like you couldn't play quarterback like that, right? But since then, over the last 10, 11, 12 years, there's been guys who've come in like Russell Wilson, who plays a little outside of the offensive scheme, right? Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. And I'm not saying he's those guys, but I'm saying he adopts a similar play style. And when you have that, like, it doesn't look good. It looks a little frantic. He's running all over the place. But it's a proven way to play the position over the last 12 years in the NFL. And I think that that's something that needs to be kept in mind. Like, it might not be conventionally pleasing or aesthetic, but he does a good job with that. And I think he makes plays, he extends drives, and that's what the quarterback's got to do. I personally, the thing that makes me worried is I'd like to see him work within the context of the offense a little bit more effectively, right? There are guys that do that, like Russell Wilson does it, but when he's got to make hay, like he can sit in the pocket and throw the football, right?
Right.
John Watson, removing all his off-field legal stuff, he likes to run around the football, but when he's got to make plays in the pocket, he can do it. And Heineke, to me, in the preseason thus far, and even in the playoff game, I mean, a little bit in the playoff game, but in the preseason specifically, has not shown a tremendous ability to be like, I'm going to run this offense from the pocket. I'm going to execute at a high level from here, right? He's looked like a guy who wants to run around and play backyard football. Can you be successful with that? Yes. But are you going to be an elite player doing that? Probably not.
And I'll ask you this last question. I got two more things for you, and then I'll let you go here. I appreciate your time. Learned this from Kevin Sheehan, so I always say this: Washington wins the NFC East if.
Oh, okay. I like it. This is good. I like this. So I think there's a very good shot this year, right? I think the biggest if, honestly, lies with Dallas. If Dallas and Dak Prescott come back and show that early season form offensively, and the defense is even slightly better, I think that's going to be really challenging for them, because Washington's strength of schedule right now is absolutely bonkers, right?
Yes.
So they need a little bit of help in the division from other teams, right? And they need to win those games when they can. But in terms of what the Washington football team can control, they need to have a top 5 defense, I think. Like, that's what they did last year. That defense needs to carry that over. And traditionally, that's something that defenses have a very hard time doing, is consistently being in the top 5 year to year, right? Because usually people leave, scheme changes, right? Offenses understand the defense a little bit better, right? And so can they maintain that high level of play? Because the offense, I think, is going to be much improved. So if the defense can still play at that high level with an improved offense, like, they're going to be a dangerous, dangerous team. That's a big what if, though, in my opinion.
Yep. And also, I'll ask you this too: NFL top 100. Terry McLaurin. What were your thoughts when you saw the NFL top one? I know the players vote on this. Fan base believes he's a top 100 player. Do you think that? Do you think that he was kind of snubbed in that, or?
Well, I think it's really interesting. Top 100 is interesting to me, right? And like one of the games I like to play with people is I like to make a list of people. So like if you could have Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, like would you take Terry over any of those players I just mentioned? Right? And then you could just keep going. Like how about Odell Beckham or DK Metcalf or Lockett or Woods in LA or who just the list, or Hopkins in Arizona. Like when you go through it and you really think about it, like there are some dogs out there playing wide receiver in the NFL, right? Like mutant freaks. And Terry is a very skilled player, very competitive player, great leader, great for this organization, all of those things. But I think there are opportunities, if you really look at it, to upgrade over Terry. You know what I'm saying? And say like, what about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? And I think fans need to be honest with themselves when they're doing that, right? Like if you're the GM of the Washington football team and it's an open draft on the league, is Terry the first receiver you're taking?
Right.
Is he in the top 5? Is he in the top 10 receivers? And I don't think the answer is yes for most people. That's not to say Terry's a bad player. Let me just say that right now. Terry's a good football player. I like the way he plays. All your listeners out there, do you hear me? I think he's a good football player. But I'm thinking that all I'm saying is that there's people that are better than him. And I think it's hard to dispute that.
Twitter, Logan Paulsen says Terry McLaurin not 100 top 100 wide receiver.
Gotcha. Oh my God, Troy, you'll appreciate this. So I was talking to somebody about Chase Young's Madden score. And I said it was like 87. And I was like, that's great. He didn't do anything like tremendously outstanding last year. And that was the soundbite that they got cut. Like, I love Chase Young. I think he's a great player. And that was all over Instagram for a while. So I got to make sure I say that now. Like, I think Terry's good at football. I just think there's other people I pick first.
Oh, man. Okay, yeah. So I got my clip for Instagram later. I'll set you up like that. But Logan, this has been a pleasure, man. And I think there's a lot of hope around this team. I know you were part of 2 division championship teams. And I will say this, that while you were one of the younger guys on both of those teams, they seemed old winning. This year, that's why I have hope, is that this team is young and they went to the playoffs and they can build off of it. But if you look at those previous teams, they were kind of old, especially defensively. They had a lot of seasoned veterans there, and it just didn't work out there.
It kind of felt like the runway was really short, right?
Yeah.
And here the runway feels like it's pretty long, or at least until they got to re-sign everybody, which is coming up here soon. So
get that cheddar. But the man who discovered Jordan Reed, George Kittle, and Austin Hooper, Logan Paulsen. You can find him on Instagram, Logan_Paulsen 82.
There we go.
Breaks down everything. The dude, he is a teacher and a student of the game. And you can also, you're still on 106.7 for postgame too, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you can listen to him. And Travis Thomas was looking for a nickname for you. I thought of Thor, but I thought of something better. We're going to call you Ragnarok from now on, because you will just end it. You end the Terry 100 thing, and you ended the debate about the Madden scores with Chase Young. But we've got Logan Ragnarok Paulsen on here, not Logan Paul, not Logan Thomas.
There we go.
But I appreciate you, and y'all out there, go check this brother out. And as always, make sure you get time to slap a table. Keep that same energy. We'll outlast the bastards together. Love, peace, and hell. Till the next time, I appreciate y'all. We're out. Logan.